got dead because he's shooting to it.
Check the...
And your view
Working?
Yeah, it was
But-
you don't have to take one since
and it's
this is like Mahindra. Actor saying,
This is one of the things where people by mistake install it back to front and people
Can happen.
enjoy it still.
Can happen.
And only the artist keeps quiet when so many people are enjoying it, he spills a yarn.
This is a bit like clay and all that.
This happened in our, it's an international photography salon, by the way. Your husband will probably know because it was our club, PSM. One of the salons, one of our photographers is a very famous insect photographer. Well known for his insects.
I had a talk, I heard a talk of his.
We attended one of his railway, Puchi Venkat. We called him Puchi. Puchi Venkat.
Puchi Venkat.
Husband will surely know him because anybody in our club will know him. And he came around. His photographs are always there, selected as a few for the exhibit. And he came. He was with me. He started looking at his photograph on the exhibit. He started yelling. The fellows have put a spider upside down. Nobody knew how it's supposed to look. He is the Puchi expert, no? He should have been there. That's it.
it's like a dragonfly. It's like a dragonfly.
Yes, a bit like that.
I did this actually, a bit of a sharp thing. First, in our own photography institute, Ambition Institute, we had exhibition for our students. And the conditions given, this sort of photograph should be submitted. Each student will be given two. Surely two of them will be exhibited. More than that if you select selections. I gave my two. Huge hue and cry. I said, what is this? Video conditions. The photograph should be shot by you. Post-production permitted. I gave them artwork. Only thing I was careful to see every pixel in my result is from a photograph I shot. I said, how can you stop it now? The thing went right up to the boss and there's nothing doing. I stood my hand and if you do not exhibit this, I'm going to raise hell. It was exhibited. Take shortcuts, always. It works. Lama, the engineers are good at shortcuts, I tell you. Oh no, take any engineer, he will see how many shortcuts we take in our life. Or our career for that matter.
Life itself is a shortcut.
Okay. First, a few announcements. One, we have a new member. We have a new member, a very unusual, he or she or it, called Chat GPT. You heard about Chat GPT?
Yes.
A lot of talk going on about it. Artificial intelligence. The website is almost always busy. You are not able to log in easily. But I was lucky. I logged in, asked it some questions. Chat GPT agreed to become our member and gave me a review. Lakshmi will be reading it shortly.
That would be interesting.
Only thing, it sounded very much like Ramesan. You will notice it once you start reading it. Very much its style. So next time I must check with him what he has got to do with this.
Maybe Ramesan in the same.
Who knows?
Maybe it morphs into one of the characters, one of the voices.
And this is our next month's book. Manning Tree Witches. Manning Tree Witches. That's the one. Now, a couple of people were asking me, I've forgotten.
Cover came out in a
Yeah.
It came out in a different cover.
No, that is something we can't control. No, each edition comes with a different cover nowadays.
There's about real witches like the Salem witch hunt.
I don't know, I have not started reading it. I have a feeling it is something like that.
I had a neighbor who was a witch today,
Take it.
current witch. Yes, her name is Chita Banerjee. She's a witch, she was finding.
No, there are a lot of particularly Kerala trained.
I know there's even an anglicized
Yes, yes, yes.
I can't get the name right now, but they call themselves.
Coven.
There's a name for it, like what Coven, no? There's a proper name.
Yeah, something
Maya.
perhaps.
Nalla Brahmana.
Ah.
Chico,
I have put on this nine even now.
I don't know which code.
Right.
Anyway.
But you want to be more specific.
Oh yeah. I'll find that.
Or I'll say go to
She lived in all our houses and kept saying there was a witch, there was a
Yeah.
ghost here, and the ghost came at night in the dining room and all. I told my friends, don't read it. She's mentioned the numbers of that. This is Delhi, you know, the big colony. And she's lived in some house there, and she said that's where the thing used to go. Yeah, this is from the Mughal time. I think they were built over some kind of a graveyard or something.
They do have some sort of power. It's maybe vague, maybe hazy. No.
Talk about this again.
Okay, we'll go to the book.
I haven't read it myself, but I think I'll get an idea.
Okay.
Then we have to now start the process for selecting our May and June books.
Right.
Because April is on, within 30 days we'll be completing the new book. So, any ideas? I'll open the nominations window as soon as I go back tonight, and the next few days you can nominate. All of us today and the members who attended last month can nominate. Anybody else wants to nominate? One of us are free to do that. And the person to be contacted at Parav Galleries is not the Sujata, she has left. The lady we met last time.
I didn't.
I introduced to most members. She was in charge. Sharon said she'll look after what you need. So Shabir is overall manager sort of a thing. He is not in Chennai half the time and all that.
He spelled his name correctly.
Yeah. Particularly me.
He spelled it S-E-T-E-I-E.
First time.
Sharon herself was here. I missed her by a few minutes.
Oh.
She came and did all this in a person.
Oh, really missed her.
I missed her.
She is like that, my God. Fabulous person, I say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
he's-
what she said.
So somebody called Asmat, he was here a few minutes back. I'll call him later and introduce you to all of you. So he is now in charge in future. He is the person to be contacted. Any one of us want anything done with Apparav Galleries. Then one off topic I'm going to mention. Odyssey is hiring.
Okay.
Unfortunately, by the time I got the news today, all the positions for the women are over. He had a few gaps for counter assistants, women and men. The women are over that number. So men counter assistants are required. Plus manager, store manager, topmost position. Parandaman, whom we used to deal with, is left. So, and they want accountant also. So, anybody interested? Part-time, for the counter boys, part-time is perfectly permissible. They don't have to be full-time. That's the sort of thing. Anybody is there, just get in touch with me. I'll put them on to the right people.
Will you give a job if you just come there and read books?
Pardon?
Can we have a job of just reading books? Come
Yeah.
and just read.
I didn't know. When he allowed part-time even in the past, a lot of students used to join just to be able to read books in their spare time. They did. It was happening. So we'll go on to my review. Then we ask ChatGPT to talk. My review will generally be neutral so that people who come afterwards can do a lot of filling in. How many have you read Kohinoor by William Dalrymple?
Yeah, I have.
Because it was strongly recommended by Sharon 4-5 years back. At that time, all of us read it. I think she even procured the book for us. It was not available at that time, if I remember right.
Yeah, something like that.
She got it printed for us, procured it, ring bounder and all that copy book, we got it. Some 10-13 of us read it. It's exactly the same thing. And that triggered interest. I am sort of selective history buff. I was already familiar with the real component, the history component of this story because of Kohinoor as well as my interest in the subject in that period. I think the real standout is the author's storytelling skills. She has fleshed out a bare history beautifully into a highly readable book. Before starting to read the book, I was a little worried that as I know the story and the history, I may not enjoy the book. I know what's going to happen next. But how wrong I was. Rani Jindan and all the other historical characters come alive in the storytelling. Chitra actually takes you and immerses you in the period. The main characters, Rani Jindan and Maharaja Ranjit Singh, have been etched with rare sensitivity, which is not common generally. Their love, their relationship is the backbone of the book. Most of our history books don't do any justice in the telling of the actual power of the Sikh Empire of Maharaja Ranjit Singh and how much the British feared him and later Rani Jindan. It is there in the solid, serious history books. This is mentioned that the British were scared of them because if they managed to start a popular revolution in Punjab, everybody is in trouble. Another thing I've always found, it is always tricky reviewing a non-fiction or historical fiction book. There is no point in commenting on the story that's given. There's nothing you can do about it, or the plot or whatever. It is only possible to comment on the author's storytelling skills in such cases. Chitra makes each scene stand out in our minds. We actually feel we are there. She makes us actually feel their emotions and sympathize and makes us sympathize with them. In short, a beautifully written, well-researched effort which I enjoyed reading.
I can start. The following is a review by, as Suresh says, our latest member, ChatGPT. The Last Queen by Chita Banerjee Divakaruni is a historical fiction novel that tells the story of Rani Jindan Kaur, the last queen of Punjab. The book is set during the mid-19th century, a time when Punjab was a prosperous kingdom in India, but faced the threat of colonization by the British. The novel portrays Rani Jindan as a strong and intelligent woman who was a skilled rider and warrior, and who was also deeply devoted to her family and her people. Through her eyes, the reader is given a glimpse into the political and cultural landscape of Punjab during this time, as well as the complex relationships between the various characters in the book. One of the strengths of the book is the vivid and evocative descriptions of the setting and characters, which transport the reader to another time and place. Divakaruni's prose is engaging and poetic, and her attention to detail brings the story to life. Another strength of the book is the way in which it tackles complex themes such as power, betrayal, and identity. Rani Jindan's struggles to maintain her authority and protect her people from the British are a powerful reminder of the costs of colonialism and the importance of resistance. However, some readers may find the pacing of the book slow at times, and the extensive cast of characters can be overwhelming. Additionally, while the book offers a nuanced portrayal of Rani Jindan, some of the other characters feel underdeveloped and one-dimensional. Overall, The Last Queen is a well-written and engaging historical fiction novel that offers a fresh perspective on a fascinating period of Indian history. Readers who enjoy stories of political intrigue and strong female characters will find much to enjoy in this book.
This is what an artificial intelligence talks about.
When I put it in, sir, I'm sorry, I can't give my opinion or something like that.
No, it does answer a lot of questions. It does answer, I don't have enough info, I don't know anything about this person. What do you need more?
But this is very generic review.
He said about the SansSeruf
Very
book club.
impassionate.
Correct. No? Yeah, that's very radical. We agree so much. It's unbelievable. DNA sequence.
Something, right?
I asked ChatGPT about the SansSeruf book club. He said, I don't know anything about it. He said, can you give me more info? I gave more info. It just repeated the info in different language. That's the only data it's got.
It is artificial.
Website, no?
It's not genuine.
Website.
Are you going to read another one?
Just your different language, same thing.
Sorry, back to hearing my voice. This is a review by Prem Sori Kishore. I have already confessed that I read Independence instead of The Last Queen by Chita Banerjee Divakaruni. I had read The Last Queen last year. Go figure. I bonded with Chita Divakaruni when I discovered her first book of poetry, The Black Candle, in 1991. I had just arrived in Southern California, and here was this Indian writer in Northern California writing deeply emotive poetry against an Indian landscape. I had just got a freelance assignment for an Indian paper and rang her up for an article. We have remained connected over the years, especially when she arrives in Los Angeles for book readings. I have read every book of hers, and there are 19 of them. In the flyleaf of Independence, there is a quote by Amrita Pritam. There are many stories which are not written on paper, but are written on the bodies and minds of women. I repeat the quote. There are many stories which are not written on paper, but are written on the minds and bodies of women. And Chitra has a deep, intimate bond with all her women characters: Sita, Draupadi, Mistress of Spices, Sisters of the Heart, Independence, and now she's working on her next novel about Radha. Now, The Last Queen. Not a fan of historical novels, but this period piece kept me enthralled. It was a rapid page turner for me as I followed the turbulent life of a kennel keeper who became a queen. It is an exquisite love story, sensual and passionate between a commoner and a king. But the story of Jindan Kaur is more than that. It is the story of a rebel, fearless, astute woman who used diplomacy and intuition when dealing with the many wives of the king, who came out of the zenana, thrust herself into political conspiracies, formed alliances, fought on the battlefield, embraced motherhood, and took on the treacherous British. From the moment she stepped out of her hovel, I became Jindan's confidant and her loyal companion, and that is the skill of the master craftswoman, Chita Divakaruni.
Jane is the new member, a friend of mine from US. So she's sincere. From the time she joined 3-4 months back, she's responding every month, sending us a review.
What about yours?
Later, we'll come around.
No, I'm not done. I've read the book. Okay. So it was a really fast book for me. I really liked it. I like historical novels, and I did not know about. I mean, my history was limited to Maharaja Ranjit Singh. I did not know about his Rani Jindan and what happened to his son Dilip and all of that. So it was really interesting, and I was actually very taken aback with all the conspiracy and intrigue, and I haven't really read anything like this before, and that was quite fascinating. And how this Rani Jindan formed alliances, and then she also, it was not like she was very honest about keeping her alliances. She was also being treacherous, and it was quite interesting to read all of that. I feel a little bad for Jawahar, because I felt that, she kind of abandoned him when she went, because she said she will write to him and she will find him a job. But there was nothing about that. Of course, he comes back and then he makes matters worse for himself. And Lal Singh and Tej Bahadur, I think, or Tej Singh, right? I think those were really. I mean, it's a consistent theme in our Indian history. You know, we keep getting betrayed by always, right from the beginning. Yeah.
All in the same family.
All in the same. Everything is constantly, consistently
South
that.
India and South, everywhere it's the same story.
Yeah.
From Prithviraj Chauhan and all that.
Exactly. Yeah, right from the beginning, that seems to be a consistent theme. So even here, that's happening.
Otherwise, British were nothing compared to the size of India and the Indian kings.
Yeah. So that was a consistent theme, and I found that when Lal Singh did that, that was par for the Indian history. Yeah. And I found it very interesting that the Rani Jindan went to Nepal. And then from there she managed to, I mean, she went off to the UK, and I can't understand why the British were so scared of Rani Jindan and the son, because they had kept them separate, they had kept them isolated. So I can only imagine the amount of fear Maharaja Ranjit Singh or the Sikhs must have struck into the hearts of the British, that they were, you know, I mean, it seems paranoia, seriously. Especially considering these two couldn't do anything really.
Just the two of them, literally.
It was just the two of them. And they had taken the leap and they had made him convert to Christianity, and he had no clue what was happening. But still to be so frightened of that little boy and his mother who's old and infirm, that seems, I mean, amazing to even visualize the amount of terror they must be in, right?
From one of the history books I read, it is mentioned that the British were scared because the image these people had among the Sikh people.
Yeah, that's what. So they must
The
be.
moment they just come and physically stand there, is enough people will come around them, join them, and do their bit.
Yeah, so they must have been really scared about the Sikh community coming together and
Exactly.
creating, yeah. So that I thought was really interesting. Yeah, I like the book.
This is Alagoos. Yeah.
So we have many write-ins.
This way?
Has many.
Sorry.
So we have many write-ins.
How do I hold it, like this?
Just hold it. Nothing has to be done. Just hold it. It's on.
Okay. So this is from Alagu. Dear SansSerufians, enjoyed the book thoroughly, so I'm sharing some thoughts. The Last Queen, what an absolutely delicious book. It had the taste of so many flavors, all resulting in the most satisfying read. There was love, romance, colorful celebrations of weddings and mehfils, joy and beauty in all its aspects, whether of people or places. There was intrigue, murder, malice, greed, hatred, war, pain, and sorrow. I guess the only flavor missing was one of humor. I could not find any at all. The author Chita Divakaruni is a storyteller par excellence. I enjoyed each of her characters and the way she has woven their story. Though the first half was a bit slow, the pages turned quickly and with ease as the book progressed. The fact that I still remember the characters so vividly points to her descriptive talents. Rani Jindan Kaur, a woman of great beauty, intelligence and conviction. Yet she too failed at times in some disastrous decisions fired by her ego, like advising her young son, King Dalip, not to put the much needed mark on the forehead of a British nominee in order to make him king of a neighboring kingdom. It was the beginning of the end. The Grand Sarkar Ranjit Singh, tall, majestic, with an aged silken beard, simple but powerful, a king of great charisma and valor. What a character she drew as she traced the Anglo-Sikh wars, the heroic battles fought by the soldiers of the Khalsa to safeguard their beloved Punjab from the Firangs, only to lose so many precious lives of the soldiers, partly through Rani Jindan's folly of avenging her brother Jawahar's death. The first wife and queen, I couldn't read what is her name? Rani Okay, Nakin. Okay, the first wife and queen, however it's pronounced, who understandably wicked and jealous, did all in her power to rout Queen Jindan and Mangla, the faithful maid of Jindan, characterized so well. The manipulative Wazir Dhyan and a host of others. The characters through the book were alive and real, and the way Chitra captured the life of the times was impressive. But most of all, the story of Dalip, his banishment to Britain, his conversion to Christianity and all things Western, planned cleverly by the India office, the genuine fondness of Queen Victoria for her little black prince with large eyes and sparkling teeth, the story of the Kohinoor, sad beyond words, and the return with him of his mother to England to live the last years of her life. But yes, they say served a purpose, for she was able to convince him to reconvert back to the faith to which he was born. In her dying words, Jo Bole So Nihal Sat Sri Akal, which will translate into, whoever utters these words will be happy. Eternal is the great and timeless Lord. Though the language was simple, it communicated easily. There were not many remarkable or memorable passages to be underlined, but Chita Banerjee spun her yarn so brilliantly, covering the heroic history of the Punjab in such an unforgettable manner, and that encourages me to surely read her more. So the Forest of Enchantment, Palace of Illusions and others, for they will certainly educate me with ease and interest on our nation's past.
What's yours? No, I haven't. It's Alagus. Okay. What about your review?
haven't read it.
Oh, okay. Okay, this is Meera of the SansSeruf book club. I have not read the book fully. I have only read it until the time she goes to Nepal, and then she receives news. Then they're just calling her to court, saying there's some good news, and then that's where I'm at. I did not want to like the book. Like you said, it had won the award that my book was nominated for. So when I picked it up, I didn't want to like it. And when I started off, I thought that she was maybe 12 or 13 when she fell in love with the Sarkar. So it seemed a little pedo type for me. And my daughter is 13, so I was like, oh no, cannot be happening. But then I remember that my mother was 12 or 11 when she got married. So a little bit of context will probably help. And then it really picked up. It really reeled me in, so to speak, right? The story itself, I think, is very, very interesting by itself. It really reeled me in, and even the Zenana parts were really something that I hadn't know. I just, I don't know what I thought, but I didn't know there was so much going on there. There was so much protocol there, all of that. And like you said, Nritya, I think that when we realized after she became queen, right? So there is no other way for her except to be a part of all these machinations. There doesn't seem to be another way. And she says also, right? I remember telling the Sarkar, how bad it was that he did this, but I don't see any other way either. So, I remember that girl who was quite innocent back then is what she says. So that entire part was pretty, but we knew what was happening because we know what happened with the British in India. So, so sort of heart heavy, we just, sort of read the entire thing. So great book. So in spite of not wanting to particularly like it, I ended up liking it. I have a couple of gripes though. I think that in an effort to make write about books that glorify women, or I wouldn't even say glorify, that are female centric. I think the male characters, we say this a lot about male authors, right, that they don't develop their female characters adequately. I think she's done that. I couldn't really feel even the Sarkar. I couldn't really get a grasp of who he was. It seemed a little veiled for me, at least. So I think that is like I think ChatGPT says, right? Other characters are not as well rounded as Jindan and maybe Mangla. I thought were pretty and Jawahar also. I thought those were the people that I could understand and sort of know more about. So I think that was one thing that I thought maybe in male characters were not that well developed, I thought. The first half was good pacing. For me, the last seemed a little rushed, like lots of stuff happens, fatafat. So that I remember another book called Roots that I'm sure many of us would have read, which was also similar. The first part was really, it really got you in, and then Alex Haley's, and then the final few were just just goes through generations like really quickly, and like, oh, okay, wait, I just pause, hold on, I need to soak in this sort of thing. So that was one, but I don't really know. I read up after this because I hadn't read the book, wanted to know what happens, and that's when I realized what actually happens in real life. And I wonder if she has embellished the romance between the Sarkar and her. I thought that was, I mean, maybe I'm just too jaded, but I wasn't so sure that there was romance or anything. I thought that she glossed over a little bit of the power structure there. But again, that could just be me being jaded, I'm not sure. Well, that's my review, and I hope to finish the book on my way back. So, thank you.
My grandmother was 8 when she got married.
Yeah,
one generation earlier. No?
That's right. So then I was like, okay, now Tata's not, wasn't really child marriage. That's
Hello, Anand here. Like Meera, I'm in the mid stages of the book. I did enjoy it, though I would have liked her to flesh some of the characters, because this is one of the few books I haven't read back to front, I started from the beginning and I'm sort of in the middle. I liked it insofar as that the author tries to teach us, because she must have figured out that 9 out of 10 people will recognize the Kohinoor about all. And then about 1% of the world are readers like us. Only 1%, maybe even less than 1% of the entire so many billion, 8 billion people read, and are pathological bibliophiles like people in this room, who you tell them to read a book, whether they like it or not, they'll read it and then they'll dissect it like what I'm doing. We all thrive for knowledge. Fiction went out of style a few. So this lady is now trying to bring in historical fiction, which we as Indians ought to know, a small percentage of us. This is a book we can narrate to others. And you don't have to pontificate, we know this, we know that. We just read it in a novel, and written by a person sitting in the United States. And she's so far removed, but she wrote it with enough sincerity. And the only thing is that you fall in love with 1 or 2 characters. I like the father guy who tried to actually pimp his daughter, so this is, maybe that's what's happened. But it's not as simple as that, because there were so many pretty girls. Why should the Maharaja only fall for this guy? For this particular guy's made it. Yeah, that's.
History angle, we really don't know.
Yeah, we really don't know. And, but still, it's part of the narrative. She didn't dwell much on it. Her ditching her brother was a bit bad, because she fleshed him quite a bit in the first few pages and then forgot all about him. And that's okay, you can't. She's written 20 books, so, she's doing us a service. Most of us are not writers ourselves. So she's taught us, me included, that one can learn a lot of history, fact, from these books. And without putting too much in and, going into who and what. We can all decide on one thing: the East India Company was bad guys, and now everybody is going through, the new thing is that they're all bad. The Indians are the ones who are on the ascendancy, and it's good to learn our history, especially a forgotten part. I like the part about how body being 1 year, I think she's somewhere in. I haven't come to the part. I read it in some review, and how they mistreated the son by pretending that they liked him, all in their long game. The Brits were here for the long haul, whereas and they were very manipulative. Today, everything. Indian guy is sitting in the thing, and he's not going to quote this book. So there you go. He's still so British. So there you go. A lovely book, and I intend to finish it. Thank you.
That's Satyati also, huh? Yeah.
But it also
I don't know.
Do you have Ramesh's review? Shall I read it out?
You can send that.
I haven't read it.
You have, oh, I see, okay. I wish I had written this down. So just going to give random points. Like all of you said, I liked it because I have absolutely no knowledge of the history of Punjab, Bengal, Kashmir, or any of that area. And sadly enough, the rest of Indian history, my knowledge is abysmal as well. So seriously, purely from that point of view, I was intrigued from the start. I found the beginning, let's say 33% of it, very slow. And having plodded through it, I realized that to me, I mean, who am I to criticize an author? But to me, I think she could have raced through that part of her very predictably impoverished childhood and gone on to stress the part where she meets Ranjit Singh. And there, I think the author has excelled herself, because in just 2 or 3 sentences, the picture of Ranjit Singh, he is on his way out. He's in the evening of his life. He has fought his battles and he has won. But there he sits, a frail old man with a long white beard and in pristine white clothes on a white horse. I think the horse was white, but I'm not very sure. Laila, was the horse white? But anyway, that's my imagination. The picture it conjured for me was something absolutely splendid. And I have no surprise that a young girl fell in love with him. Maybe it was infatuation, which became lust, which became love. I see it like that. I think the author has portrayed that. So yes, I'm not a fan of romance novels, but I like the love angle in it. But as I said, it took its time. The part about after she gets into the Zanana, I found predictable. You throw a heap of women, queens, each one competing with each other in power, each one competing for the Raja's attention, each one jealous of each other. We've heard it before. Fine, okay. That part, I was not taken up by the palace intrigues at all. What I liked were more the men figures. They came into her life. They were taken with her, whether they liked it or not. They found something to admire in her. Even if they disliked her, they found her a presence. And that presence stays till the end of the novel. Till her dying breath, she remains an unforgettable presence, which only Divakaruni could have done, because it's very hard to fictionalize somebody like this. There are records, I believe, but not very much. The picture on the cover is a portrait of her in her 40s, and you can see from that she has a very strong face. I think her beauty lay in her strength. From this girl, who a naughty, mischievous little girl who was scared of her father, she suddenly becomes brave, strong, scared, but she doesn't show it. She goes through. She gets the prince. She also has an abortion, which is done in secret. And you can imagine how askance, how that part must have been in those days. As a queen, to become one, you have to sacrifice a lot. In my opinion, she could have sacrificed a little more. Yes, she could, from the age of 21, she led a life of celibacy. So at some point of time, she gave in to this handsome young man, and lo and behold, that happened, not passing judgment on her, but I think at some point she strayed from her goal. Sacrificing Jawahar was a very good thing that she did. It had to be done. You have sacrifice as part of the game in a power play. somewhere at the end, I think the last 25% or 30%, as all of you have said, she races through. There are names thrown at us, places thrown at us, pathways thrown at us. We see the sudden deterioration of this strong woman into a frail woman who keeps saying, I cried and I was enraged. I cried and I was enraged. It's like a chorus that goes on, and I said, okay, get on with it. Okay? And yes, she's ill-treated by everyone. She's disregarded, but that is the plight of a woman who is dethroned, as it were. So it was expected. So as I said, the story was a bit, I'm quoting Maureen's words over here, predictable and simplistic, but absolute page turner and definitely a revelation for all of us. The last thing I want to say is the language. For me, the language of a book, that's why I like crawdads so much. I liked the language at the beginning when she was a young girl, but I do wish that the author had embellished her language, matured it, as we saw in Palace of Illusions, for instance. I was not taken to the Sheesh Mahal. I was not taken to a beautiful Punjabi palace. I couldn't see it happening with me. I needed her words for that. I also needed maturity of words in Jindal's thoughts. It's written in first person, mind you. So you have the advantage of giving your protagonist very powerful, mature thoughts as the woman matures. I didn't see that happening in her, but that's my opinion. I'm sure there will be people who will find a contrary opinion to it. So these are my only not so great things to say about it. But otherwise, I'm delighted we read the book. And yes, I've read most of her books, so.
I think she should have, maybe just take a big net, right? So it needed to have been birthed through this. So I don't know where it ends, but I'm saying the most interesting that only she might think. Because the end it seems like, now I'm confused who is this in Nepal situation. I don't know, this person suddenly just cropped up.
Yeah, no, it's not. After the bit of where she goes to Kashmir, and then after that it kind of speeds up a little bit.
Can I say one more thing? You know, in school, when we were first spoken about Sati, I'm sure we were all horrified, right? But here, it is still horrifying, but somewhere along the way, I wonder if you'll agree with me, it kind of made sense because these women had nothing once the husband died. They were just thrown to the dogs, as it were. So here they're martyred, they're made goddesses, and hopefully they didn't suffer too much. That's all we can say there.
Supposed to be drugs and all.
They went to the conqueror's harem, I suppose. You see, that's what always happened. Yes. They were old.
But I also just feel sad that I don't think I would like to go and see Lahore and see if there is anything left of this. I don't think that's possible.
Current pictures, I searched all over. For example, her own Haveli has been raised and something else has come up there. Only that picture is available on the net. There's not even a sketch about the old Haveli. I couldn't find it there.
That is really sad.
That's a Kohinoor story.
What is the Kohinoor story in the sense? Yeah, it brings misfortune. Whoever has it brings misfortune.
See, actually, there's huge
From the beginning.
Who is the owner? Nobody really can. That is so with any really historical fact. It was there in our peacock room. Confirmed historical fact.
Before us, didn't it say in this book that it was with Kabul?
Yeah, they took it.
Then, when he wanted to
Nader Shah came, plundered Delhi, he took it.
He took it.
It's missing. After that, for some time, it went on through a lot of other Afghan and that area kings. And finally, Ranjit Singh, defeating somebody, got it back.
But Ranjit Singh was prepared to give it along with a lot of jewels as reparation for something.
But before he died, Ranjit Singh specifically mentioned, please give it to Puri Jagannath temple.
Yes.
It is there. Historically, it's even mentioned in some documents that he specifically asked, but the ministers who took all his death statements and all that did not do it. It remained with Punjab. It remained with Punjab, which means it belonged to the current king, which is Dilip. That is the story. But he was extremely young, and the British had their eyes on it. That is, I am now quoting from the Kohinoor book. They had their eyes on it from day one. They were planning to get it, and finally, when they had one particular agreement, treaty with the Sikh kingdom, a 10-year-old boy signing it, it's supposed to have been mentioned that the Kohinoor was supposed to be given to the Queen. But there is still a lot of questions on that. It remained with Dalip only, but they quietly took it and sent it to England.
But Rishi Sunak can send it back, but he'll be defeated in the world.
It happens to be the costliest diamond, in spite of lot of diamonds being bigger, mind you, the costliest diamond in the world. It's estimated at 20 billion pounds, not dollars.
But they won't give it back.
Yeah, why should they? They have a story, you know. One questionable treaty. They have a questionable treaty. And this character, Dalip, presented it to Queen. That is recorded. They were careful to record these things.
So
it's present, it's a gift. The matter is over.
It's very churlish.
See, if you think the treaty matters, it was Dalip had no.
The following is a review by Tejo on The Last Queen by Chita Banerjee Divakaruni. I found the book easy to read, and it did move faster than expected. I was initially overjoyed with the speed. As far as the narration was concerned, it moved smoothly until I noticed a jump in the story here and there. The characters. The Queen and King have a certain kinship, and the apparent age difference is not so evident. This is until he passed away, and then the Queen's decisions were quite erratic. While she wanted to safeguard Punjab, she also did not want to make her decisions wisely, and that, in my opinion, was because she wasn't born in royalty. Driven by emotion and arrogance, she was responsible for a number of mishaps and loss of lives, typical of what happened to other states when they succumbed to the British. I was appalled at the way most Indians were treated by the British.